Doodlebutt. Here's something crazy for you today, a pen review. I figured I'd show you the unboxing because it's pretty unique. You slide the sleeve off, then you open the box, and inside's the pen. If you need to rewatch it, just back it up about 5 seconds and you can follow along. The pen we have today was sent to me by the kind folks at Apple Boom. This is an Opus 88 Premium. And this is their special shell pen. So you can see here we got some beautifulness going on. We got some abalone and mother of pearl black and white going on this pen. Satin type resin to sort of go with it to offset the shiny, something matte. So that looks kind of cool. Satin and matte, I always get those two confused, but they say it's satin. And we got a nice little section on there. We have a big thick stub pen. This is a cool thing with Opus. Well, Opus 88 to be exact, is their stub is a 1.5 millimeter stub. So it's a pretty thick one. Usually stubs are like about a 1.1. Sometimes you get a 1.3. They got the 1.5. So you're going to see how it writes. All sorts of good stuff. So let's just get into it. Another cool feature I thought I would share, if you fill the pen with ink, say like this Robert Oster Green, it writes. How you get the ink in the pen is you remove the cap, which does require 3 full turns. You unscrew the section. You got your converter, which is included. Twisty sucks up the ink when you put the nib into the ink. So that's pretty easy. These threads on here are nice. So we got a brass body construction. Then we got the inlays here with the abalone and mother of pearl shell slips on there. And zip, it just goes on there. So those are quite nice threads. The threads going on here. This is a screw to post. So same thing, you got to screw this on. Takes about 3 turns or so as well. Which that's my only kind of pet peeve with Opus 88 is they seem to do on it usually like 3 turns for a cap. My personal kind of preference is 2 and under. So that would be, but they do this across the board. So that would be a big change for them. But I wish they did fewer threading, fewer turns, I should say, for their pens. But other than that, it looks quite sharp. Like that does stand out. If you like something with a little bit of flash to it, just look at all that beautiful shininess. They did a pretty good job in here. I don't feel any seams or everything. Everything is nice and straight. I have a cheap Jinhao pen that has, I don't know, mother of pearl. It's a mother of something. And it's all crooked and, it's like painted with some stuff and it chips off. So this is legit stuff that's on here. They did a good job. You can see tiny little spots where there's like a seam where a couple of pieces were put together. You got to really look close to see that. But yeah, it's a sharp looking pen, I think, and it writes quite well. Speaking of which, let's just start writing with it right now. Now, in order to write with a pen, we're going to need some paper. We're using Rhodia, and it is the 80 gram per square meter. My comments on how the pen writes, I think it writes quite nicely. Not used to like the 1.5 stub. It's quite large for my personal preference when it comes to writing, so I kind of have to force myself to use larger writing. I'm usually quite a bit smaller. But you can see it lays down a nice line variation. Lovely stuff. Like really, really good job. It does squeak just a touch. You might have seen on this side the odd skip. That's just me trying to go around. Sometimes I got the microphone over here. I got the camera here. I'm watching through and I'm trying to get a good position. And sometimes I skip. I lift off as well. So that's why I moved the camera, did the other side. But yeah, the nib has been good. Dry out has been pretty good. I find stubs sometimes if you leave them, and this is kind of stubs in general. Let me know down in their comments if you've noticed this too, but If you leave it, let's say for a week or something like that, just a little bit of longer period of time, sometimes just that very first stroke misses for like 2 millimeters and then it flows again. I don't know if that's just a stub thing. It's not just on this pen. I've had it on a few pens. So I'm just curious if anyone else has noticed that anomaly, but writing experience is spot on. And I think the stub actually kind of suits the pen nicely. Of course, if the stub isn't from you, it ranges in nib sizes all the way from extra fine up to broad and then your 1.5 stub. And there is a flexi style nib. I do have another Opus 88 with one of those flex nibs. Keep your eyes out for the review coming up. These are, as far as I know, a JoWo number 6 nib. So you can swap, mix and match with other pens, other nibs, if you got other ones that you prefer. Overall, like I said, the build quality is quite good. Yeah, everything fits together nice. No sharp edges, no crazy seams. Everything's good. The pen has been operating quite well. It is a little short on its own for my hand. Now, keep in mind, I have a fairly large hand. So I sort of grip here, and this is just borderline kind of a little too sharp. If I want to write with it unposted, I sort of grip down a little bit more. It still works, no problem, just not my ideal writing position. I sort of like this. So that's why I do post it. I'm not the biggest fan of the screwing to post style pens, but like, it'll never come off. You don't ever have to worry about losing the cap and it falling off. So I do get that as well. With it posted like this, it backweights it a bit, but it's nothing over the top. It does, at least from my hand. If you're a high, gripper, well, not high gripper, but high writing angle, I could see that might bother you a little bit, but for me, no problem at all. One little detail, I'll see if I can show it here because we got focus going on, but when you do screw it on and secure the cap, I'm not over wrenching it. That's like the minimum amount there to make sure it's secure. The clip doesn't quite 100% line up with the nib. It's off by just a few degrees. Again, that does not impact the performance of the pen, but for some of you OCD folks out there, I'm a member of that club too. This pen does have a good weight to it due to the brass body construction. So we're looking at, just a little bit over 43 grams. That's with it mostly inked. The cap is just about 15 of that. So that means we're left with about 28 in the body. I'll do a size comparison momentarily, but dimension-wise, overall, like so, we're looking at 139.3 millimeters for the length. Pop off the cap, you got 123.3. Posted, it's about 163 millimeters, and as far as diameters, it's got a bit of a kind of a bulge, so thinner here, kind of protrudes out a little bit. It does that in the cap too. So the cap, the widest point is about 15.8, 14.3 there in the body. The section tapers from about a 12 millimeter grip down to 10. It's about 18 millimeters long. For a visual comparison, we got a Lamy Aeon, TWSBI Eco, the Opus 88 right here in the middle. That's a Pelikan M805, and then finally a Pilot Metropolitan. Getting ink on my fingers, but of course I'm getting ink on the pens, but we cut the caps off so you can see it loses a little bit more of the length once you uncap it. Overall, I have been quite pleased with the pen. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. It works well, writes well out of the box. I just put ink in it, wrote up, and I haven't had any issues when using the pen whatsoever. We got beautiful shells on here as well. That takes a fair amount of work. Now there are like crazy high-end pens where these are all placed one by one with a beautiful lacquer, all that stuff, but be prepared to spend a lot of money on those. On the Appleboom site, it defaults to Canadian currency because I'm in Canada, so it runs about $195 Canadian, about $145 US. Of course, it always depends on conversions and all that type of stuff. Anyways, check out the Appleboom site and you'll see the price on there as well. I think that's reasonable for this pen. Brass body construction, putting all those inlays in there. We got a full-size number 6 nib and made quite well. My only little nitpick on the pen is just the 3 turns to uncap the pen. Now, if you're doing longer writing sessions, it doesn't matter because you're keeping the cap off. But for quicker notes, this might not be your go-to pen if you're just doing kind of quick notes and it's 3 turns. You write something down for 10 seconds and you put it back on and you're doing that back and forth. So that's the only time this might not be the best pen for quick notes. But for nice writing sessions, yeah, you get a nice experience. Fits nice in the hand. There's a grip position here for everybody. That's going to take a while to get off. And if you do have the larger hands, again, the screw to post, again, like I said, for quick notes and all this stuff, and if you got to post it each time when you do one, might not be your go-to. But nice writing sessions, especially with a big thick stub like this. It's a joy to use. It's quite nice. Before I wrap things up, one little thing I was reading up on the Apple Boom site. So the 88 and Opus 88, they say has to do with the year the company was started, but then down at this corner it says since 1977. So I'm a little confused. If someone down in the comments knows the scoop on that, I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you for watching. Any questions, all that jazz, you know what to do. Down in the comments there. Likes are appreciated. Subscribes appreciated even more. Say bye to Mr. Moose, and we'll catch you next time.